OMG, Maxilla, what is going on? Alright, we got the piece of steel in the forge, getting it warmed up so we can actually start this thing. I'm working with the same type of steel as we worked with in the last live stream. Nope, actually, scratch that. The live stream before last. So we're basically using a piece of round stock like this, except for this is smaller than the one we're working with. The last full integral knife that we forged, it was like 2 weekends ago, we are going to be using, or I guess it was 3 weekends ago. Yeah, we're using that same bar stock. Now the only thing that I did, what's up Crab? The only thing that I did before the live stream was I took it and I made it an oval. So I flattened it on two sides using the power hammer just to make it a little bit easier for us to start the process. My goal for this particular live stream is for us to forge something that looks like this right here. That one right there. That is the goal for this. We're going to forge something like this that has an actual loop on the end of it right here. Building a fishing rod. So we're going to be forging something again like this right here in this live stream using some almost 3/4 of an inch thick round bar. I've got it in the forge right now, coming up the tent. I'm actually only using the front of the forge right now. I've got a block off plate inside here, so I'm only using half, I guess just over half of the forge. So I'm using about 10 inches of the 18-inch chamber. I've got the back 8 inches blocked off so that I'm only using one burner. What's up, Craig? Only going to be using one burner. I'm trying to, I don't need that entire huge forge, so I created a block off plate to block off the back side for something like we're forging today. And the blade that we're forging is going to have a really cool, this leaf profile. It's going to be sleek. It's going to be awesome. And I'm going to be forging a little tail on the end to make a little, kind of like a finger loop on the back side of it. Again, I'll show y'all for the people who are just hopping on. It's going to be like this one right here. The little loop on the end of it. Sleek blade right there. We're doing an integral handle. So the handle is going to be forged out of steel. Everything's going to be integral on it. And we're going to have a nice taper towards, you know, going from the handle down into the blade. Right now I've got it in the forge. What we're going to start off with is we are going to basically forge the tip point, and then once we get that tip point forged out, we're going to switch to the other side and we're going to pinch a section that's going to turn into like a little tail that we're going to make a loop with. So that's going to be pretty cool. I haven't really done one of these before. This is my first time doing this particular profile. Can you get a titanium knife? Yeah, I mean, I could do a titanium knife. The thing is, you're not forging titanium. That's a lot of stock removal, and it's a pain in the butt to stock remove. But yeah, you're not really forging titanium. You will absolutely screw it up if you start forging. But this should only take about another 30-45 seconds to finish heating up. Then we'll start pulling in that tip, and I'm probably going to do the tip and part of the actual blade profile before we switch to the handle side. We're going to be using all the two bastards hammers on this one, starting with the dog head hammer to actually start this thing. What we're going to be doing is we're going to be hanging the steel off the edge of the anvil and forging in that tip. You'll see that as we start going. I'm actually going to bring y'all in just a little bit and lower y'all down just a hair so that y'all can get a good visual of that anvil. Bring this tip in. So even though I forged it a little bit flat, basically like an oval, it's still like really, really, really thick. So we've got a lot of material that we have to move during this. But what I want to do is I want to get a long, sleek blade out of this. I'm pretty sure that's Toby, my son, typing on my wife's account, Nisha Rivers. But I think we're going to get a really cool blade out of this today. It's going to be unique. It's kind of going to be like an elvish style blade. Not Elvis, the singer, but you know what I mean. Elvish, like an elf. Slowly start stepping that down into a point. Hunk of burning blade. I just saw that. That's funny. an Elvis blade. Oh, I love the Doggett hammer. It's easily my favorite hammer that I use now. All I had to do was just modify it a little bit. Frank with Two Bastards, of course, the sponsor for the live streams, he told me what to modify on it a little bit to make it more like what I wanted. I did that, and it has been perfect ever since. Again, Two Bastards, those people right there. Oh, I'm wearing the shirt. Two Bastards, Smithy and Supply. They're the ones that do all my hammers. Basically what we do is we pinch the tip as we go. We're not forging in on the corners. We're just pinching that tip. What we're able to do is we get a point without any fish lips. And just in case you're wondering, I do have a power hammer. So I just don't use it for these live streams. So we're able to take this steel. I'm going to show y'all what we're doing here. So we're taking the steel and we are hanging it off the edge just a little bit. Okay, so we're hanging it just off the edge and we're hitting right behind the tip here. What that does is it pinches this behind the tip, and what happens is whenever you pinch here, it pushes the center out and it domes the end. If you start hammering on the corners, what it's going to do is it's going to move the steel from the corners out, or you're going to have to focus on hammering like this the whole entire time and hammer back in. But if you hammer just on the top here and on the bottom, you're going to move the steel that's on the edges out and create fish lips. But if you hammer right here, and you pinch this area, it's going to push the center out and create a little dome like this right here, which is going to let you forge it into a tip. You don't have fish lips. That's what we were just doing right there. Okay, so we have our defined point. We started forging it down a little bit. This is going to have a pretty fine taper to the tip on there, but we have that where we want it. All I want to do now is I want to basically create my transition for where my handle's going to be going down into my blade. So what we're going to do is we're going to grab the guillotine tool, bring it over here, and we're going to actually set the shoulders for where that blade's going to be. Looking at it, I know roughly where I want the handle to be, so we should be good to go ahead and set those. Again, what this is going to do is it's going to give me that defined area for where the blade starts and the handle starts. Our switch hammers, we're going to grab the guillotine tool. And if you're wondering why it's called a guillotine tool, pull off with their head. Guillotine tool here. Basically, we put the steel in here, set it on there, and then we hammer in, and it will actually put a step down for us. So tonight we are forging, I'll show you real quick, just for anybody who's just hopped on. Something kind of like this, with a little loop on the end of it, but just a sleek blade. That's the goal for this one. We're doing it out of 3/4 of an inch diameter round bar. I'm going to turn this just a little bit so y'all can actually see me using the guillotine tool. I want to get this section pretty hot so that it actually puts in a lot of work here. Yeah, making a knife. First metal to use for making a knife. The worst metal to just use in general, mild steel. We've got a lot of people that do things that with mild steel. You don't want to make knives with mild steel if you don't have to. You don't hold an edge. But me personally, the steel that I don't like to use is 1095. Only because there's a lot of people that think that that is a beginner knife making steel. 1095 is not a beginner knife making steel. There is things that you have to do to 1095. You need to have a soak time when it's in the forge heating up to get ready to quench that a lot of people don't tell anybody about. Alright, so you can see roughly where we want the handle to be. Get it in here. So that gives us a step down for our shoulders. So this section from here up is going to be our blade, and that section from here down is going to be our handle. Yeah, soak time for 1095. So a lot of people don't realize this, but yeah, I will invest in a heat treat oven. But a lot of people don't realize that 1095, you need to soak it for about 5 minutes. So it needs to come up to quenching temperature. Let's just say 1500 degrees, and it needs to sit at 1500 degrees for like 5 minutes. You're trying to do that in a forge, it's very complicated. Forges fluctuate in temperature. So, you know, whenever you're trying to heat treat 1095 in a forge, it's not very good. And you have a lot of people who do these on YouTube videos where they heat treat their 1095 by putting it in a coal forge, which does not keep a consistent temperature. So they got their 1095 in a coal forge, and then they quench it in motor oil. And it's like the outside might be hard, but the inside is got a horrible grain structure. It didn't quench right. If you snap it open or crack it open, it looks horrible on the inside. So that's not my preferred steel. But a lot of people tell new knife makers to use it. Really wish they wouldn't. Okay, on this particular heat, I started taking it, and you can see here a little bit, and I started rocking it this way. So I'm turning it, that forge section, that step down a little bit so that it will flow like a handle scale. But we're thinning it out. We're not going to go much thinner than that. This is going to have a pretty wide spine. I'm going to keep forging it with the guillotine tool, and basically I'll show you what I'm trying to achieve. One of these days I'll finish this knife and you won't be able to see it like this, but what I'm trying to achieve is this angle here. So instead of it being straight like this, I'm trying to achieve this because the handle is going to be integral. Hold right temperature, forge from there. Yep. Did you also use the sit down apparatus? Absolutely. And I've done fullers and knives. Here, I'll show you one real quick. So the fuller in this knife right here was forged with that guillotine tool. So you can absolutely do fullers with that guillotine tool. This is one of the ones we did on a live stream. I actually did the fullers on the live stream. Of course, this was fully forged to this off the live stream. And that was forged fullers. Handmade knife. I've got a bunch of knives on my website, theriversexperience.com. But I also do custom orders too. Just got done doing a nice custom order that got picked up today. Where I finished it yesterday, technically. We picked it up today. that's about how thin we're going to go on that right now, which is probably about 1/4 of an inch. Step down. Now we can go ahead and start forging out the blade. We want to get the blade roughly to profile, and I'll tell you why here in just a second. So we want to get the blade roughly to profile so that we can actually go through and forge in that little tail that's going to be kind of like a finger loop on the handle. Let's see here. Well, happy birthday, Duck. Beveling Bart, thank you for subscribing. It's 1 a.m. See you later, man. So forging, it's not that it's hard or difficult. It's as long as you're willing to take the time to learn the skill. It's not that it's hard or complicated. It just takes a lot of work to figure it out. You got to be willing to practice it. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to start isolating the blade. All we're going to do in this step is we're going to get the whole entire blade to that narrowed down thickness, okay? We're just going to forge it out as we go. It's going to be kind of like a leaf profile. And for most of this, I'll use the Two Bastards dog head, and then we'll end up switching to probably either the fat peen right here or the fat cross peen, straight peen, and stretch it out a little bit. Matter of fact, let's get some length out of it. We'll use the straight peen to do a lot of this forging, and we'll actually stretch it out as we go. I'm going to switch to this other side of the anvil, so I'm going to move it over just a little bit. That way it's over here, and I can stand on the other side, and y'all can still see what I'm doing. Bring y'all down just a little more. Okay. All we're going to do during this, we're putting big hammer blows in here, and we're pinching it from both sides there, okay? And what that's going to do is that's, for one, going to make our blade thinner, but it's going to elongate it, give us a nice long blade. The reason why we're using these hammers right now is because we want to bring the blade down thinner as we go, and what we want is a really long, sleek blade that doesn't really step down much from what's going to be the integral handle. We don't want that. Whenever I forge the handle a little bit, we're going to thin it down and do some tapers, but we want everything to be sleek and a very similar profile. And for the people who are just hopping on, to show y'all again what we're working on here, we're making something like this right here. It's going to have a loop on the end of it. We'll be forging that tail and working on that loop after we get this blade set up. It is basically a man cave. Speakers and all that. Just wanted to throw it out there. I'm live streaming you. And the hockey team simultaneously. That's awesome. Yeah, I've signed up for Forged in Fire, and I have not been on there yet. I've competed against some of the Forged in Fire people in different like YouTube competitions and things like that, but I haven't actually been on the show yet. Now, the goal for these next couple of steps are to really get the blade thickness thinned down and get it stretched out as much as possible before we start doing any bevels or anything like that. We want to get that blade to where it's about 65 to 70% done, and then start focus on some of the other processes here. Start pulling that blade down. And I'll tell you this, the steps that we're doing right now, even though we're making a blade profile, are not the steps that make something pretty. The steps that we're doing right now is really upsetting the steel and getting it where we want it to be before we actually take and clean it up. So all we're trying to focus on right now is moving the steel to where it needs to be for the end results. So we don't need to be sitting there trying to make it look super pretty or anything like that. What we want to focus on is making it look like a knife. We want the handle to be roughly where the handle needs to be in handle profile. We want the blade to be where it needs to be, spine thickness, uniformity, stuff like that. Before we start making things look pretty and trying to forge in bevels and forge in the final profile, before we do any of that, we just need to get the steel to where it needs to go. And those are the steps we're working on right now. What's up, Mom? How you doing? Just in case you are wondering, yes, my mom's name is Janet Jackson. Not the one that you're used to, but the one that I'm used to. Okay. Matter of acquiring good anvil at affordable price. So you can find a lot of anvils on Facebook Marketplace, but I'll tell you, if you wanted to get a good entry-level anvil, these little Vevor anvils that are right here. This is like their 130-pound anvil. That thing is absolutely awesome. The place that I'm going to be doing some work, which is the Dragon Forge Experience, their main forge area, the Bavarian Experience up in Frankenmuth. I did a little video last week's Shop Talk Tuesday, or the week before that, Shop Talk Tuesday. And they use 4 of those Vevor anvils as their anvils in that store. It's absolutely awesome. What's up, Scott from Australia? The people that, or the lady that did my tattoos, she retired and she doesn't do tattoos anymore. Her name was Jeannie. Whenever you're forging, think of yourself as a power hammer. What I mean by that is you swing in the same place and you move your steel. What that'll do is keep your hammer blows consistent. So what you'll start to see is that we're going to get a uniform thickness starting. Don't worry about how in line it is with what's going to be the handle or anything like that. Right now we're just working on the blade profile. It's going to look I would say way different. It's going to look quite a bit different than where it's at right now. But we're focused on drawing it out, keeping the thickness where we want it to be, getting that distal taper started. What's up, Jason? How you doing? Is it hard to start forging? I've been interested, haven't known or want. So it's not hard to start. I'll tell you, the big thing is just starting. The big thing is just going through. Get yourself an inexpensive anvil, whether you got to get it from Harbor Freight or you got to order one off of Vevor and have them ship it to you. Get yourself an anvil. Get yourself a couple of Harbor Freight hammers. There are videos that show you how to take a Harbor Freight hammer and turn it into a rounding hammer, and then you got ones to turn it into a straight peen cross peen. What I mean by that is something like this. This is a cross peen, it goes across. This is a straight, it goes in line with the hammer handle. You can grind down a regular Harbor Freight hammer and get this peen and this peen, and then you can also make a rounding hammer. Now, of course, my hammers, if you want to order one of them, Two Bastards, Texas Smithy and Supply, people that are on my shirt here, they actually sponsor the live streams. You can actually order hammers directly from them, and what they'll do is they'll actually figure out what hammer you need, which is something that a lot of new smiths need in their lives. They need somebody who can tell them, hey man, all you need is this hammer, and this anvil, and these sets of tongs. If somebody was there to tell me that stuff whenever I first started, it would have made my life so much easier. These tongs, if you want to be a knife maker, get yourself some box jaw tongs. So basically, your steel goes inside here, okay, and it won't fling out. I've had it happen with regular tongs like these that are just open on the sides. I've had it happen where I'm holding steel and I'm hammering, pink, hit it wrong one time, and it flies out, and I've had it hit me across the nose, glowing red. Instantly cauterized and burnt my nose. It was crazy. That was not a fun event. I did catch it on camera though. Continue working on this blade. Pretty much down to the thickness that I want it to be. So now what I need to do at this point is start cleaning up the profile and making sure that my transition from, get you some better light, the transition from this handle down into the blade has a nice smooth transition. You can still see that there's a dent in there because it swoops down, and you can see this shadow that's up there. That means I need to bring that thickness to where it's more even. So we're going to heat it back up, and then in order to get that thickness, we're going to switch to a little bitty old auto body hammer. We're going to use this, and we're going to use this ball peen hammer that is about as old as me. We're going to use this, and then my auto body hammer that I've had for about 27 years. So it's a pretty cool thing to be able to collect hammers and have all of them. I'll tell you this, one of my big things is, again, the people who make my hammers, it's Frank and Nita. Two bastards, they're the two bastards, husband and wife, Frank and Nita. Absolutely awesome people. They've been doing this for like 6 years, and I love them. You know, you can get all kinds of hammers from them. They do like restorations, all kinds of stuff. I'm all about the people. When it comes to doing a lot of this stuff, I want to know the people and meet the people that I'm using their stuff. Put that down a little bit, switch to the little ball peen. I'll show you this real quick before I put it back in there. What's going to happen is, you can see we already minimized that shadow that's right there. It was a lot broader. We're really focusing on that crease right there, and we're trying to bring it in. So again, that we have a nice even transition down into our blade. I'm not so much worried about the blade profile right now, because it's only going to take me like half of a heat to get the blade profile exactly what we want. Go from there. Hunter, it's awesome having you here. Yeah, the Doyle anvil, absolutely. So Johanna, how you doing? We're working on a knife for anybody who's joining and doesn't know what we're working on. Basically what we're doing is we are forging a knife out of something similar to this piece of steel right here, which is just a piece of round bar. What's up, Bevel? Welcome back. So we're taking something that was like this right here, and we are forging it into a knife. Now this originally was a coil spring off of a car. So it was a coil that I had to take and forge it into a straight bar. The one that this is only 5/8 of an inch. The one that I have there in the forge is 3/4 of an inch, is what it started as. I'll shut my doors a little bit and start to sprinkle outside. I like it better when I don't have to shut the doors because it gets real hot in here. Okay, we're going to continue working on that transition. Keep our blade centered. So what you'll start to see is our transition from the handle down into the blade will start to smooth out as we go. As you can see, we're still thick in the spine here. That'll get forged down as we go. What's up, Alan? How you doing? Whenever we do these integrals, so knives that have integral handles and everything like that, yeah, it's basically a standard ball peen. The only difference is I just changed the profile of the ball a little bit, and then I rounded the head of the flat side just a little bit, kind of like a rounding hammer. So this is just a rounding hammer that has a mostly flat face, but a really aggressive ball on the other side. You know, if you compare it to one of my really big rounding hammers, you see you got a big round and then a flat side that has a slight curve to it. Same thing, slight curve, but just a really aggressive round on the other side. That get a little bit warmer. For the steps that I'm doing right now, I don't need a whole lot of heat into it. It's not necessary. I am gonna, because I had to shut that door, I'm gonna break a couple of the lights over. That way I'm not sitting here in the shadows. I'm not Batman. Or Bane. I wasn't molded in the shadows or the darkness or whatever. All right. Voila. Thank you, Alan. And yes, adjust the ball peen for the requirements. Yep. Worry about the final product warping. No. So as long as you're doing an annealing phase, you're not going to have to worry about it. Basically, when we go through and we anneal the steel, don't need it to be this hot. When we anneal the steel, we reset the steel basically back to its factory default settings. So you shouldn't have to worry about that. Put our edge back to center. There we go. Okay, so now that we have those areas where we want them, we can go ahead and start working on that blade. Now, of course, that doesn't mean that that transition is finished at this point. The transition area from the blade into the handle, once we get done forging the blade, getting the thickness to where we need it to be, and then get it cleaned up, we'll then switch to working on the handle. The handle profile will change quite a bit, and then we'll come back in when we start planishing and really cleaning things up. And we'll clean up any of those transitions from the blade up into the handle area, what we call the bolster, kind of like the ricasso up into the bolster. We'll clean all that up. And to give you an idea of what it looks like when it's all cleaned up, this is what it looks like when it's all cleaned up. You have a nice even transition into the handle, and it will be a smooth ramp up, just like that, even on both sides. Going into, of course, it's not going to be shaped exactly like this handle, but something like this, where again, this is a full integral. So, something like that, give you an idea of what one looks like whenever I've cleaned everything up. I haven't been able to set up my forge like a space. I feel that. When do I dip? So when do I quench it? I quench it, of course, after I do annealing steps and all that. Cleveland right now. There's a huge warehouse. That's pretty cool. Wish there was a huge warehouse dedicated to forging here. Okay, switch back to the dog head and start cleaning up this profile. Want to get the thickness down as well. a little bit. So we'll start getting a uniform thickness as we start doing these steps, and we'll start cleaning up. We'll start cleaning up the blade profile, getting a nice smooth blade. The steps after this is where it starts to get a little fun, doing that tail. Again, we're going to be doing a little tail like this right here. Little loop on there. That blacksmith knife is actually awesome. So, if you didn't get to see the community post for it, still need to grind the bevels, but that's how it looks. This, of course, was the one that we worked on last weekend. That's the guard that we forged into it. And then, of course, twist. And I'll tell you this, I cleaned up this profile, did the swedge, which is the bevel on the top, all of that stuff with just hand files. So 2x72 has not touched this yet. So any of the cleanup was with a wire wheel to clean off the forge scale, and then just hand files to work on cleaning up everything. And this will have a bone inlay inside this section here, and basically it's made to where you can put your pinky in here or your index finger in there, or just hold it just like this. What's up, Toby? My son Toby's on my wife's account, but you can see, forge that nice and tight up into that little notch there. And all of this was all forged. Everything that you see here is all forged. So that is going to be a beautiful knife when it's all said and done. It already looks like a cool knife. You know what I mean? But that was last week's live stream. We're going to go ahead, work on this profile just a little bit, and forge it thinner. We want a long, sleek knife with this. It's kind of like an elvish blade. Again, not the singer Elvis. Like the Hobbits is. Elvish. Start to get a nice sleek profile. This, of course, is going to be the cutting edge. This is going to be the spine. We'll start getting a nice distal taper towards the tip as we go. You'll not be on the next live stream, Toby. So, what are y'all working on? Doesn't have to be knife related. Guess I have to hand file the bevels too. I thought about it. I might end up doing that.
that you bent up on the blade?
No, so that's not welded, and it won't need to be, because for one, I forged it super tight into there and it doesn't move. But whenever I put this piece of bone in here, I'm going to drill through here and here, and there's going to be a pin that connects to the bottom piece. So a pin here and a pin there, and those pins are going to be pinned into place on the top and the bottom. So this will be pinned together around that piece of bone that's going to be inside here. Where did you get the cart made for the forge? So this was actually a rack from a clothing store. It was like a display rack that had a big pyramid thing at the top of it. I cut the pyramid off and I welded extra steel into it, and then I made a frame for my forge to sit on. Yeah, that was a clothing rack from a store. Woo! It's hot here. I'm hoping that it stops raining. I'll leave that open just a little bit. It's probably about 95 degrees in here right now. It's still a little spicy. Keep working on that thickness. Make sure it's uniform. Our profile, whenever we're done doing this, we're always aiming for as close to forge to finish as possible, because the least amount of grinding we have to do, the better. So whenever I'm forging these, I want to only have to maybe take off a 1/16 of an inch of the actual profile. Can't have to take anything off. Now, we've got a nice blade shape. It's got a nice sweep to it. And whenever we end up forging the rest of it, it'll clean up and be even more of a nice profile. Let me take that heel in just a little bit. There we go. Better little profile there. And yeah, I built the shop. I actually have it on my channel. I built the shop on the channel. So I want you to see what we have here now. So you see we have a nice uniform thickness. It slightly distals towards the tip. So, uniform thickness all the way to the tip. We're straight. So, this particular blade, let me throw it back in the forge and I'll show you. As a matter of fact, we're going to start working on the handle, so I've got to switch to holding it from the blade side. But you're going to see real quick, you're going to see how much this handle is going to transform. Right now, it's just basically a rectangle. You'll see that actually transform into what we're going for. I need to get my tongs where they're a little bit closer together. There we go. So, let me show you what we're making. I like that you preface that with not buying it. We're going to make something like this right here. Sorry, finger move right there. Something like that. We're going to be doing a tail on it with a little loop. But that's the overall goal. Toby, are you on the main account now? That's my son Tobias. Thanks. Whenever I was forging on this side right here, y'all couldn't see anything. Alright. I'm just going to try and put the anvil a little bit towards the center. But yeah, now we're going to basically just heat up the tip, just the tip of the handle, because we want to start drawing out the material that's going to be that loop. Go from there. It's delicious when it's hot. Yep. Tornado Garden, what's up? So I'm going to go ahead and create the transition of what's going to be the amount that we're going to use for the rat tail. So that is going to be what we're going to use for the rat tail. And then did you forget that chef's cleaver hanging on the back wall? So, yes, I pretty much, all my hammers have shorter handles on them. I tend to choke up on them like this. So, you hold a framing hammer like this. You hold a forging hammer like this. So, framing hammer, because you're just trying to swing and get all that leverage, I guess. Forging hammers, a lot of us blacksmiths, we hold them about right here. I even, whenever I'm using my hammers that have a tiny handle, which is like this, it's just got a tiny handle on it. Even my ones that have longer handles, like this, I still choke up on them about right there. Now, a lot of that helps you with hammer control. Choke up on it a little bit, and this is one of the reasons why I love the dog head, because I can hammer directly on top of the anvil, and my hand is raised away from the anvil. I'm not going to smack my knuckles on the anvil. But you want to get that control when you're doing this, and all I'm doing is I'm basically pinching it between these three fingers right here, the hammer, and it's rocking a little bit. Okay? It keeps you from getting blisters. I do not get blisters. And I can sit here and forge for a long time. What I'm doing is I'm coming over here and I'm dropping it, but it is rocking in my hand bouncing back up for me. But I am going to either be hammering like this or like this, or you're going to see me sometimes whenever I'm really coming through and I'm coming all the way up here. I'm always choking up on that handle there. We'll come from this side here. Doing these steps right here is where your blacksmith techniques are going to come into play, because we need to keep that square. We need to be able to pull it out enough to where we can loop it back around onto itself. Are you using a 1 pound hammer? Nah, that is a just over 3 pound hammer. These other ones that I normally use too, that's a 4.5 pound. I'll show you what a 1 pound hammer looks like. This is a 1 pound hammer. That's a 1 pound hammer. That's the difference between 1 pound and not 1 pound. Gotta use big boy hammers if you want to be able to forge like this. Don't use the little bitty baby hammers. Now, if you like baby hammers, that's fine. I'm cool with that. I just tend to like to use a heavier hammer. One of the things you want to make sure that you're doing whenever you're forging out a tail like this, and we're trying to keep it to where we can end up forging around, for one, we need to keep it even as we go. We need to keep it square, and we need to make sure we're not creating cold shuts. So if you hammer too much on one particular part and it has a chance to fold over a little bit, and then you lay it back down and forge it, you will forge that fold over back in, and it's like crumpling up a piece of tin foil. What will happen is when you start cleaning things up, that little fold over will fall off and it will leave an indentation where it actually folded over and forged into the knife. That gives you a cold shut. So what we're going to do is we're going to forge this tail out a little bit, and we're going to then modify the profile of the handle. The last thing we're going to do to the handle is fold that tail back off into itself. We don't want to do that until we actually get the profile of the handle finished, because we'll end up screwing up the handle or that little fold over when we're grabbing it with the tongs. It's the same thing we did with this blacksmith knife that we forged. You know, we want to get the tail and everything, but we got to get the blade roughly profiled, get that tail fully forged out to 9.5 inches, and then do things like some of the arch, the spiral, work into here, get this piece flared out. All of those are steps that we need to make sure that we do in order so that we actually have the end result turn out how it needs to look. decent amount of material to work itself back on. But I think I'm going to forge this little section a little bit more and get about another 1/2 inch of length. So I think that 1/2 inch will give us the right size loop that we want. Hold your finger on the screen. Hit the like button when it appears. I love that. I'll tell you one thing. This is like the easiest way to get a good workout. Do some forging. It'd be amazing if it worked out your belly, right? Okay, that should be plenty right there to be able to loop back onto itself. So now, just need to work on this handle profile, make it look more like a handle. Now, of course, this loop that we're going to do is going to finish the handle length. Okay, so technically the end of the loop is going to be the end of the handle. What we need to do now is really start working on this taper for the handle itself. Get that hot, because what's going to end up happening is we're going to create gym or sauna or both. We're going to create this little taper that goes from here up to here. So this area is thinner than this area up by the ricasso. So we need to create that area, which is what we're going to work on next. Downside of this is trying to heat up this handle without overheating that little bitty tail. I've only got the forge running about 1800 degrees right now, so it's not going to get too hot, but it's going to get a little spicy in there. A little more water. Water is essential to doing this particular craft, man. Y'all will overheat yourselves. Okay. So now we need to get a little taper on here. Start working on that taper that's going to come back to here, and then we're going to end up rounding the handle too. Right now those edges are really sharp. We're going to need to round that. still haven't even done the full profile yet, because what's going to end up happening is it's going to have a super sleek transition between kind of a long leaf blade into a nice simple handle. And I'll tell you, I got this idea because of this leaf that came off of one of my wife's plants, and it just made this really cool blade profile, and the root of the leaf looped around on itself, and that's what helped me come up with the design for this blade. And it just kind of reminded me of like an elven type blade, something from Lord of the Rings. And I love how things like that just pop into your head. At least they pop into my head. I get a lot of designs naturally like that. Okay, so my goal is to still bring this in a little bit more, because I want the flare to be a little bit further up. But again, we want it to kind of go from this thin blade up to a little bit thinner here, and then have that wrap onto itself, and just have a really cool flowing profile. One of the things that I talked about in the last live stream, or the last Shop Talk Tuesday, that I just got done releasing on Tuesday, was that, you know, there's a lot of knife makers that either know that they're really good at knife making, they're full of themselves, or they're really humble, and they understand that there's a lot of people that make knives better than them. There's a lot of people who make knives better than I do. I am maybe a slightly above average knife maker, but I'm nothing special when it comes to knife making. What makes me unique is my designs for knife making, not the processes that I do. I use a 2x72. A lot of knife makers use 2x72s. I use drill presses. I use a power hammer. I use hammers, anvils. I use a lot of the stuff that everybody else uses. But what makes me a little bit different is my brain and the way that I design things and stylize things. That's what I love about this, you know. It's all about what you can bring to the craft. You know what I mean? And not about you saying, oh, I'm the best knife maker in the world. I'm definitely not the best knife maker. But I'm pretty creative. Transition's looking really good now. That's what I wanted right there, was for there to be a subtle transition up into that handle. Now, one of the things that we need to start doing is cleaning up the handle profile. But we got the nice handle profile. Now what we need to do is we need to round these edges. You see how they go from round to sharp squares? We don't want it on there. We just want it slightly rounded on there. And yes, a legless blade. That's what we're going for. It will kill, yeah. Do touch it. And yes, Toby's at it again. He's in there on my computer just, he was talking to me earlier today. My son, Tobias, he's the one talking on my channel right now. He was like, Dad, I'm going to join that chat. He's 7, by the way. 7 years old. This is my little mini-me. He's just like me. But he's like, Dad, I'm going to join that chat today. I'm going to talk to people. He is a goofball. Absolute goofball. So whenever we're doing these steps that we're going to do right here, where I'm starting to round the edges of that, we're going to be going back to the ball peen. We don't want a bunch of heat in here because we want it to barely move the steel. Think of it as if we're planishing the corners down. What this is going to do is give us a slight I-beam effect. You'll see that develop as we go. So what's going to happen is, you see there's no more sharp edges. We start rounding that over. So no more sharp edges. We'll start refining that profile just a little bit. That's going to look really good. I think this is going to be really cool. I love knives like this, where you've never made one and you get to just have fun with it, and it kind of develops as you start forging it. And ever since I saw that little leaf, I was like, man, I want to make that blade. I want to make it into a blade. I was talking to my wife about it, and I was like, you see that blade that's right here, that leaf? I'm going to make a knife that's designed based on that. She was like, oh, that sounds cool. And yep, that's what's going to happen. helps you with forging is the practice of doing a lot of different knife making styles. And you'll really start to be able to know, okay, I have this plan on how I'm going to make this knife, and I at least have a rough concept of where I want everything to go, so that as I start making it, I know, okay, if I forge here, if I forge there, if I get this rough profile here, I'll be able to clean it up and get it into some form that I'm looking for. And a lot of that comes into play whenever you are just forging a lot of different knife styles. So, one of the guys that I look up to, you know, knife making style is Neil Kamamura. I like his knife style, like the way that he designs his knives and stuff like that. But one of the things that he said in an interview or something a long time ago was that he wanted to start knife making. So what he did was he just forged knife after knife after knife after knife after knife, just hundreds of knives, and he just kept forging, kept making, and then he got to where he was comfortable doing whatever. Now he can forge whatever the heck he wants because his brain just knows, okay, start swinging a hammer, we're going to get a knife out of it. And that was my goal. I wanted to be able to forge as many styles of blades and do as many things as possible so that I could just be absolutely comfortable with going, hey, I'm going to make that style of knife today, and my brain's just naturally going to help me make it happen. And it just becomes second nature. Okay, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to, now that we have this handle roughly profiled how we want it, got an even thickness, everything like that. So I switched from the flat to the horn because if I'm hammering on the flat section while I'm trying to round this, what it's going to do, because there's a slight indentation here, what it's going to do is the anvil is going to land here and here and put indentions in those two spots, but leave this untouched while I'm hammering the whole entire spine. I need to be on the horn so it's isolating where my hammer is, basically on top and bottom. So whenever I'm rounding, everywhere I'm touching the top, there's something touching the bottom in that same exact spot. If I'm doing it here, there's going to be a gap in the center. So if I'm hammering here in the center, there's nothing touching that spot. So what it's doing is it's putting dents on the two ends as opposed to in the center. Hopefully that helps. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go back to doing the same thing, but on the flat, like I just said, because this area is flat, I want to slightly round. Right now we're really square. I want to slightly round these edges before we taper it down in. So I'm going to heat that little tail up just a little bit. It's going to take no time for that to happen, but hopefully that makes sense. You know, when we're hammering here, we have basically a little, like a guillotine tool almost, top and bottom. And again, that comes into play with you forging a lot. You get used to using all the different parts of your anvil. Just like I know that this section right here, the step down, this is the main face, this is a step down, then your horn, this is the width of my hand. So if I forge something that fits this right here, I know that I can grip it. So if I forge two things down on the edge of this, that can be something that goes on this side of my hand and then this side of my hand. I know that it's going to fit. That little tank is already warm. It took no time for that tank to heat up. So we need to let that cool down just a little bit. That's too hot. And we're going to come in here and we're just going to round over the edges. Basically think of it as if you were beveling that little tail. So now this tail has a nice round to it. So it's going to be comfortable once we actually fold it over onto this section right here. And basically it's going to tuck up into this little bitty shelf that you see right here. There's an itty bitty little bitty shelf, little step down. It's going to tuck right up into that. Let's go ahead and clean a little bit of this forge scale off. Straighten that tail just a little bit. Okay. Now we're back in line. Okay, so now what I want to do before I get that tail perfect, make sure we don't have any weird stuff happening here. I want my handle to be roughly where it needs to be. Okay, so I'm really liking the handle. Of course, we got the forge scale off of it, but now you can see roughly what we're going for there is like an I-beam effect, so that mushrooms out on the sides on there. Now, of course, I'll end up coming in here with the ball peen tomorrow, and I will do a whole bunch of little bitty taps on here, just like this. I will sit there with it in a cool state like it is right now, and I will sit there and tap it for about an hour, it feels like, and I will smooth every single big bump that you see on here, every single big bump will get smoothed down to itty bitty, little bitty, tiny little indentions. So let's go ahead and clean up our blade profile. I want to show y'all what profile we look like right now. So this is the profile we have right now. We need to clean up the blade profile a little bit, even things up, center in our blade into that handle. But that is going to be absolutely gorgeous. And it's going to really, the style is going to finish out once I get that folded over, that tail folded over and create that loop. It is going to be just a gorgeous profile. I know that it already looks good right now, but it is going to be just a gorgeous profile. You just feel it in my bones, okay? Now what we're going to do is switch our tongs up, grab our round jaw tongs. So these tongs right here, that way we can actually grab the handle. Of course, these are like older than me, but they'll grab that handle easily. These things have been through some stuff, man. Yeesh. I probably need to go through and forge them tighter. What's up, Toby? That tang is so thin that even with it outside the forge, just a little bitty heat that's coming out of the face of the forge, or the mouth, is heating that tang up.
May I come in?
Where are you going to come in here? Come on. And just in case y'all are wondering who was typing, Toby, hop in here real quick. This is my son, Tobias. He's the one that was behind the keyboard for a minute there. This is my little mini-me. Yep, and on your mom's account. You want to sit down over there? Probably want to take your jacket off. It's hot here, dude. Don't get your jacket too close to the floor. That thing is probably all polyester. That jacket would just go up in flames. Poof!
And I would be.
Is there a name for this shape? I'm gonna, well,
I don't know what.
I would call it the Legolas, but I'm pretty sure I'd get copyrighted for that. But I'll come up with one. Again, the whole style choice behind it was based on Lord of the Rings. Hey, brother, come over here. Because you don't need to be over there whenever I'm forging this. So these tongs grab round stuff like this perfectly without messing up anything. So now we're going to switch back to our dog head and start cleaning everything up. Bubba backed up. He's super intrigued at all the stuff that I do out here. Which is how kids should be. Make sure we get everything centered. Make sure our cutting edge is centered into our handle area. That way, if we need to shift anything over, now's the time to do it. Switch back to the little ball peen. everything exactly how we want it. Whenever you're planishing, you do not need a whole bunch of heat in your blade. If you've got a whole bunch of heat in it, whenever you're doing the planishing phases, you're going to end up screwing up a whole bunch of stuff. You're going to screw up work that you've already done. You want just a little bit of heat into it, because all we're doing right now is just smoothing. Okay. That is exactly what we want. Switch back to our other tongs, which are here. Okay, I'm just going to grab it like this real quick. So, don't worry about the tail just yet. We're centered down our blade. We got an even, uniform edge thickness, slight distal to the tip. Profile that we want, with a subtle arch from here to here. Now we're going to rotate this tail down to there and finish up the profile. So the best way to thin out a blade without a forge is to make yourself a coal forge or get a forge. Thinning down steel without a forge, the easiest way to do it is to buy a grinder and grind it down. If you're trying to hammer it or forge it down, nope. You need a heat source of some sort or really good torches. So I'm going to heat that little tail up a little bit, and I'm going to center it, and then I'm going to wrap it around. I'm thinking, let's wrap it around something. I've got plenty of things that I can use. Let's see if one of these fits inside this little hole here. It's not very sturdy. It's not very stationary. If I'm wondering if I use that, let me go ahead and turn notifications off so y'all aren't getting blasted with that. So I'm going to grab this, and I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to use the horn. So screw this thing. We're just going to use the horn and tap it around. We're just going to work it around onto itself. One of the things that you need to focus on if you're going to use the horn is remember that the horn is a cone. Okay? So the horn is a cone. It's wider here than it is here. If you're just holding this straight perpendicular to the anvil, what's going to happen is one side of this is going to be slightly tapered in. So basically what's going to happen is this piece right here, this tail, will stick out that way because you're going to be hammering basically as if you were hammering on that angle like this, because that horn is tapered on either side. So if you're hammering straight onto it like this, you need to be following that angle so that when you're hammering on it, it's actually wrapping around onto itself. Get it back up again. But that's one of the ways that a lot of the different parts of the anvil gets away from people, is not realizing that this is a cone and you need to be following you need to be perpendicular to whatever the edge that you're working on. If this edge is this way, you need to be perpendicular to that, not the anvil. You get an angle. That will keep you going straight. That tail takes no time to heat back up. Go from the top here. So like right now, we have that right there. Let's see here. Yeah, with the flat disc. Am I going to Blade Show? Yep, I'll be at Blade Show. Won't have a table, I'll just be there. And a knife though, that might burn the steel really. Yep. It will burn the steel if you get too crazy with it. Right now I'm looking at this and I'm wondering if I want to change this up just a hair. And I do. I want to change it up just a hair. Just because I don't want that loop. I don't want that loop to be as big as it is. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to heat this up and I'm going to rotate it one time real quick. 1 second. Didn't finish. I just had to go get some little bitty, these little guys right here. There. I feel like that looks better to me. Hold on, I'm going to show it to y'all better here in just a second, but I just need to center it up a little bit. Inside the loop. There we go. Now it's centered inside the loop. But I feel like that looks better overall flow than the way it looked just a second ago. I think that matches it a little bit better. I'm not really using it for a functional like finger or something like that to go inside there. So let's look at this overall profile. Let me grab the different tongs. So that is our profile. Nice and even with the handle. Subtle little beveling, and I'll come in and I will even bevel this with that ball peen tomorrow and clean it up some more. But yeah, I feel like the smaller loop just looks better than that bigger loop did, and it keeps the profile going. But fully forged, fully integral, nice and centered all the way down. And then what I'll do is tomorrow I'll come in here and I'll clean everything up. Do a little bit of shaping with the 2x72, clean up the profile, maybe less than a 1/16 of an inch around it, and then I'll go through and I'll use the ball peen and I will texture all the way down towards the tip. So it'll have a ball peen rounded texture from the tip all the way around this and all the way through to here with that. 15N20 is an awesome knife still. But what do y'all think about this profile? Full integral handle with the loop. We got a nice angle on the handle front there and there. Nice angle from the cutting edge side up to the spine on both sides. Nice overall profile. I think it's going to look really sleek whenever I go through and I clean everything up. The reason why I don't show all of that in these live streams is because I'm gonna show you. I'm gonna give you all a little taste, okay, of what I've got to do to clean up this this section here. What I got to do to clean that up is I keep it about as cold as it is right now. You get a better grip on this. And I come in here and I just do this. And I do this for about 30 minutes, it feels like, on both sides. I'm going to show you what it does to it. And I do this all the way down the spine of the knife and everything. of people that ask me why I don't show this particular step in here. So in this area, let me see if I can get it to focus better here. In this area, there's a whole bunch of smaller dents. And what it does is you see there's a bunch of big dents in this section. Big broad dents. When you get into this section, they're really small. And it cleans up the profile all the way around it. Now, of course, I'm going to do close-ups of that cleaned up section whenever I release those pictures tomorrow. And you'll be able to see how clean I'm able to get everything by seriously just sitting here with a little ball peen and doing this. But what it does is it gives me a nice forged finish by actually using hammer and anvil rather than going through and cleaning it up on a 2x72 and just having this like really smooth profile. You want that hammer texture on there, because if you don't, the knife won't have a very good grip. It'll be too smooth and it'll want to slide out of your hand real easily. You want to have as much grip as possible, so I put that texture on there to give you that tactile grip. But definitely a cool looking blade. And then whenever I do the bevels, they'll swoop in. It'll have a plunge that just feathers in to here. And remember, okay, grab y'all off this tripod real quick. Let's see if it pop back on here. Let's see if I can pull y'all back on here. Can you still see me? No? Yes? See me but barely hear me. Okay. We'll see what happens here. But anyways, okay. So, again, I know it might be easier just to bring the tripod over here. I know I did all that stuff, but let's just be real. I want to show y'all the blade that I drew versus the blade that we got. So my initial sketch was this blade right here. So this was the initial sketch for this. And this is what we got. So going from the initial sketch to this right here. So I feel like that really, we achieved what we were going for. And with this, we were able to get the handle front that we were going for. The small line is the handle front. This is going to be the plunge line, that big swoop. So we were able to get that whole profile based on a drawing that I did 4 hours ago. So not bad for just having a little sketch and going, Okay, I think we can do this. I think we can make this happen. Okay. And there we go. I think it turned out perfect. I think that we were able to get what we were going for. And I cannot wait to see what it looks like all cleaned up tomorrow. I just want to double check too. Am I in black and white for y'all? Because for some reason, the screen's black and white. So what I'm going to do, we're going to go ahead and put it back in the forge, and we're going to let it come up to temperature, and we're going to do our annealing cycle. Remember when y'all do y'all's annealing cycles, that what you want to do is you want to go through and bring the knife up to temp just a little bit. So just a little bit. And then close off your forge, turn the forge off, and let the knife come up to the forge temperature. If you go through and you get the knife to 1600 degrees, that's our annealing phase. We want to get the knife up to 1600 degrees, let it cool inside the forge or in vermiculite so that it cools slowly. If you go through and you bring it up to 1600 degrees and then you turn the forge off, what's going to happen is if your forge was 1800 degrees, the knife is going to heat all the way up to 1800 degrees before it starts cooling. It's going to get too hot for the annealing step. So you need to bring the knife up to temp just a little bit and then shut the forge down and let it only get up to about 1600 degrees. That way you don't overheat your steel and burn the carbon out of it. That does happen, and it also makes it a pain in the butt for the next day whenever you got to go and clean off the forge scale, because what will happen is you'll get it so hot that whenever you turn your forge off, it'll want to actually just create a ton of forge scale, and it will actually stick to the base of your forge, and you'll end up with fire bricks stuck to your blade. So we got color in it right now. Go ahead, turn the forge off, and just block it off. That's all you got to do. Now we're in an annealing step. Now, what we're going to end up doing on this one is just like this blade right here that we did. So whenever we did this, we went through and, of course, did a wire brush on the outside, so a wire wheel on an angle grinder, and we were able to clean off all the forge scale and get it to this finish. That's the finish we're going to put on this knife as well. And, you know, basically, blacksmith knife. We're going to go through and we're going to do a lot of that same cleanup on this one, just like we did on this one. Not sure how I got here, but what's the best tool brand in your opinion? Best tool brand, in my opinion, man, if I was going to go with something, here's the deal. I've only got like one Milwaukee thing, and I've only got like two Snap-on things. I don't have any Ryobi stuff. I've got some Makita stuff and some, what is it, Hitachi or some whatever. But I would say probably Milwaukee. Would probably be something that I like the most brand-wise is Milwaukee. But for a brand that everybody can buy, Harbor Freight brands. Anyways, a lot of knife makers use a lot of stuff from Harbor Freight, but I've got friends that have brands that are able to make really cool stuff. House Made is absolutely awesome. Now, of course, that's going to be more knife making and different tools like that. But there's a lot of tool companies out there that have a lot of amazing stuff. within knife making, there's a lot of brands that we use for different specific things. You know, we have stuff that we use for forging, stuff that we use, you know, like my hammers. The best knife or the best hammer brand that I have is Two Bastards Forge, the people who actually sponsor my channel. I'm not saying that they're the best because they sponsor me, because Frank and Nita, they are so humble that they would be like, don't say that shit. I'm not kidding. They are the best hammers I've ever used. Absolutely love them. And the cool thing about them is if there's something that I don't that's something that I don't like that much, they'll be like, hey, if you want, all you got to do is just change this, and you'll probably really like it. And then I go through and I change those things, and I love them. Like my dog head hammer is easily my favorite hammer in my entire shop. That dog head from them is just my favorite hammer. I can hammer anywhere on the forge with this thing. I can hammer over over the anvil, everything. I can hammer anywhere I want over the anvil and not have to worry about hitting knuckles. With some of my hammers, if I get too close to here, I will smash my knuckles on the anvil if I'm over it. With this, I can just go crazy and just do whatever I want and not have to worry about it. I love that hammer. TRA knives are an absolute amazing. Yeah, love the handle too. But yeah, TRE, I would say they make good knives. They make good stuff. A few of the things that I'm going to do is I've got some ladder pattern Damascus cutoffs that I'm going to make some necklaces off of, which will be pretty cool. And do a few different jewelry pieces. I also want to forge a ring. I want to do a ring and see how that goes. My friend Steve, the one that made the power hammer for me, he did some Damascus rings and they look absolutely awesome. And that's Steve Jennings. He's a cool dude. But I think we did pretty good. This was the first time I actually got to use these little guys in here. So that was pretty cool. Actually, to go through and do that loop and tighten it up. This is the first time they're actually using those. I might get a actual full-size pair of those for doing a lot of these things, because that worked out real well to do that loop. That's cool. Those are my sons. He does, my oldest son, he does like 3D figures and stuff like that, and he uses these to make their wire frames. I knew they were on my counter, and I was like, I really need a tool like this, so I ran into the house and grabbed it. What's up, Luke? How you doing? We just got done forging this knife right here. So we made this knife today, right here. I wanted it to be kind of like an elven style, and we forged it out of scrolling tongs, exactly. And yes, they are on the to buy list. So I did a elven style blade, or elvish, whatever you want to call it, out of a piece of round bar like this right here. Now this is a slightly smaller round bar. The one I used was 3/4 of an inch. This is about 5/8 of an inch. So it's a little bit bigger than this one. And it was the same length as this, and we were able to get a full knife forged out of it with the loop on the end of it. Nice, like elven Legolas style blade. I'm gonna have to come up with a cool name for it that works for that. That's gonna be cool. I had that last knife on the whiteboard. Kind of looks like a dark timber knife. You're talking about the buoy? That one? I agree. That does look like a DTK build. So I drew that as just I'm going to draw something because I was planning on making a longer buoy. And I've got one that I forged during a live stream. This thing is rather large, rather long, but I'm actually going to take this section off right here and put a recurve into it. So this is how we forged it right there. with a very subtle clip to it. But I'm going to go ahead and take this little section out here and put a little bit of a recurve into it. And then it's going to have my R choil that goes down into there. But that is a rather long buoy. But yeah, I'm going to take that section off, and it's going to have a really sleek looking blade profile. That was one that we forged on one of the live streams. Thank you, American Patriot. 3 years, hell yeah. Yeah, it's been, so 3 years ago, this shop was just an 11 by 11 shed that I had my anvil, my little forge, my little one burner forge, and that was about it in that particular shop. And now, of course, we have a 14 by 18 that I built on the channel, and that's attached to a 12 by 12 that I'm working on making a grinding room in. So half the 12 by 12 will be a grinding room, and the other half will be my leather working station. So that's going to be really cool. And I'm going to take the grinding stuff, a whole table, this table that's right here on the other side of y'all. So this table has my 2x72, my drill press, there's a porta band saw on the back side, my Fordham right here, basically a fancy Dremel. All that stuff is on this, and then right behind it is my 1x30 that I use for sharpening. All that stuff, and on top of that, my 2x42 from Grizzly that's down over here, and another 2x72 are going to be in the grinding room. So that'll be pretty cool. And I actually start a new job on Tuesday, so I'll get to go back to knife making, actually, getting more stuff in the actual shop. There's a lot of things that I want to get so that I can actually start teaching the classes here. I will be teaching classes in the shop starting in this summer. So towards the end of June, I'll have people come to the shop and we'll do 2 or 3 day classes. Maybe 1 day classes, depending on how much time someone has, and have them come down and we'll make a knife from start to finish. And they get to leave with a knife, which is really, really cool, versus just going to a hammer in and not leaving with a knife. That I'll probably do 1 to 2 people at a time and have them come in, and I'm going to show you all the forging techniques, I'm going to show you grinding techniques, handle shaping and profiling, and you're going to end up with a knife by the end of it that you made with me. So it's going to be pretty cool. It's incredible how leaf sparks an idea. Yep. Again, it's just crazy. Here, hold on 1 second. Just wait 1 second. Now, of course, the leaf has been kind of dying since then, but this little leaf, which before it actually started wilting down here, this actually looped up onto itself, and this came to a nice point, but this was the leaf before it started really wilting and all that stuff. And I designed that knife based on this right here before it started shrinking up. But yeah, a leaf, ridiculous. Valentine artist blacksmith. The good news is that whenever I finish this, it turns into a video, so you can actually watch the whole entire thing. What do you think about using a 3 horsepower stone grinding wheel? I really don't use stone grinding wheels for many things. I had a bench grinder that had one of those, but I don't like how uneven they grind things. And they get things real hot real fast. Unless you're talking about a stone grinding wheel that's like attached to a foot pedal, then it's going to be fine. How do I like the Grizzly 2x42? I like it a lot now that they actually have the fix for it with the ground wire. Now, of course, I didn't even start using mine until after they sent out the ground wire to make it better. Yes, snake plant. That must be Nisha talking now, because I highly doubt Toby was talking about a snake plant. All right, Tyler, I'll catch you later. Seen a lot of guys forge a leaf. Yours is the first one with the edge. You better believe it. Taking a leaf as an idea and going through and turning it into a knife. And who would have thought, again, taking a leaf design and turning it into a whole entire knife. I love that. That's one of the best parts about being creative and artistic with a lot of the knife making thing that I do. You know, it's one of those things where a lot of my knives have that flair. Now I'll show y'all one that y'all are going to really want to see on the channel. And I'm going to show y'all this right here, the dragon scales and all that stuff on this one. You know, I had something in mind a while back, and of course I did that WoW knife that had the dragon scales into the spine. What's up? Is it Trevin? It's one of those. This right here will have it, except for it's going to be pretty cool because it's going to still follow that kukri profile, but it's going to be the dragon scales, and then this one's going to be longer, and it's going to come down all the way to the tip. And these are going to be very three-dimensional. This is a pretty wide knife, but it's going to come all the way in from the integral bolster and dive into that first scale. But as you look at it here, you will see the tapers all the way through to up here on that. And then there's going to be a hole here with file work coming out of it like a sunburst. And then it's an integral bolster, so basically the handle will start here. And I'm getting a really gnarly piece of antler that has the crown on the end of it, and that's what's going to be the handle. But that is going to be a crazy looking kukri with dragon scales filed into the spine. The file work down here. Then of course a fuller that runs the length of it here. The Batman, what's up? How you doing? So a lot of the knives that I design tend to be fun and crazy. So the cool thing is we have these challenges, the YouTube Knife Makers challenges that happen every single year, 2 times a year. This last one that we did was the Viking challenge. That was the one where I did the broken back sacks with the bone handle, with the zebra bone as the handle. Love that. Awesome design. The next challenge that we do is going to be the apocalyptic challenge with all reclaimed materials. So it's going to be all reclaimed materials, which you know I love doing and using. But apocalyptic challenge, I am making something that is going to be absolutely awesome. It's going to be scary looking because I'm going to base it around kind of like a Halloween theme. Not the movie Halloween, but it's going to be a horror movie theme. And it's going to be absolutely insane. I cannot wait to do it, and I cannot wait to show y'all it. But it is going to be something that y'all have never seen before. And I think it's going to be really, really, really cool. It's going to have a lot of work that goes into it. It's going to be difficult to make. But whenever I finish it, it doesn't matter what anybody else creates in the challenge. It's not going to compare. That's not me just tooting my own horn. That's me saying that the thing that I want to make, because I've wanted to do this particular YouTube challenge. I wanted the apocalyptic challenge and to use reclaimed materials since we started these challenges. So I've had this idea the entire time, and I didn't know exactly how I was going to execute it until lately. It's going to be so insane. And I'm making a mini version of it. It's going to be awesome. So it's going to be in October, this next challenge. And I am so ready for it that it's ridiculous. And I wish it was now, because I want to make this damn thing. I want to make it so bad. But it's going to be ridiculous. It's going to be ridiculous. I wish I could just tell you what it is. Because y'all would be like, yeah, that sounds absolutely insane. So we have 34 people watching right now. 34 people watching. I don't think any of the competitors are watching. The thing that I'm making is going to have four really large, custom-made by me straight razors attached to it. Nisha, keep quiet. And that's all I'm going to tell you about it. Let your imagination go wild. Oh, it's going to be so damn cool. It's going to be so cool. I cannot wait to do this challenge. I think it's going to be absolutely awesome. I want to make it so bad. I am going to make a mini version of it. Like I said, I'm going to make a small version that can actually go on a desk. It's going to be really cool too. But yeah, y'all are going to like it. It's going to be the only one like it on the internet. There will not be another one that exists anywhere in the world. It'll be the only one. It's going to be really cool. It's going to be sketchy, and all of y'all are going to want to swing it. You're all going to be like, man, I just want to swing that thing around and have a blast with it. And you're going to love it. But with that being said, we got that thing annealing. It's doing its job. I think we can go ahead, call this here before we hit 2.5 hours. I want to thank everybody for participating in the comment section, hanging out, and having fun. So what sort of glove are you using? I don't use any gloves during this. No gloves. Don't need to use gloves during forging. I always suggest no, not at all. I want no part in it. But my wife knows what it looks like, and she absolutely does not want any part of it. She is like, she thinks I'm crazy. Not really crazy for making it, but she doesn't like it when I make things that are super dangerous, and it's going to be super dangerous. Definitely not a Freddy Krueger. It's ridiculous. Have you ever made any bowl cutter knives? Or no, I haven't made one, but it's easy to make those out of regular knives, because all you do is you basically just cut the pointy part off of a knife. It's just basically a little mini straight razor / cleaver. So I've made a lot of knives, and it wouldn't be very hard to make a bowl cutter out of them, because like I said, if we just took a knife like this right here and we just took the tip off of it, you basically have a bowl cutter. And they don't have tips, because all they're meant to do is just cut the balls. They're not meant to be sharp, because you don't want to accidentally stab the bulls whenever you are castrating them. All right, Jason, I'll catch you later. And everybody else, I will catch y'all later. Again, thank y'all for participating in the actual comment section, hanging out, coming here, being a part of this. And I will see y'all on the community post that I'm going to do tomorrow, showing y'all how the blade looks after I clean it up and do all that little hammer finishing on it. And then I'll see y'all on Tuesday for a Shop Talk Tuesday. And then, of course, next weekend for another live stream. Y'all have an amazing night. Y'all stay safe out there, and I'll catch y'all next time, all right? See y'all.